Hey, out there, internet world of great awesomeness and everything else. It's your bearded brothers. We are back yet again with yet another sports podcast. I'm the bearded brother Matt.
That's Loki.
That's Loki. And he is sitting in front of
My microphone. Well, he's actually sitting on my microphone, to be fair.
That is the bearded brother Chris, of course. We're here to talk to you and fill your brains with sports knowledge and information and news and things that have happened. Things that have happened. We're going to start with a non-NFL thing. So let me give you the kind of where we're looking at for today's show. We're going to go through some news. I have a bit of hockey news first because there was a huge, like one of those trades that you look at and you go, what? That happened? Holy crap. Type of trade in the NHL. And then we're going to talk a bunch of NFL news. Because lots of coaches have been hired. In fact, every single team has managed to fill their coaching slot except one. Except one.
It might not be the one you think it is.
And it's not the one you think it is. Although they are still Southern.
True. That is true.
And then we're going to... I think we'll review games after that. The two games that happened. And then we're going to talk the NFL awards. Also, in here somewhere, we're going to have a baseball rant about the Hall of Fame. And we're going to talk the NFL awards because we have feelings on those, and there's probably going to be some ranting there. And I'm going to wrap it all up within NHL Power Rankings. We're obviously going to do, I only have a couple of game balls and a couple of showers to give out. I didn't do very many because there aren't very many games.
Yeah. I had the same thing. I got a couple of people on my list for stuff that I thought
and then
played
I've got
well
a couple in
the
the Inferno, and I've got a couple of potatoes.
Yep.
And
I got potatoes mostly from looking at the future.
That's kind of what I'm looking
next
at
week,
a
but I
little
look more
bit too.
further.
But there's some other things, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the NHL stuff, and we're going to start with the trade because it has dominated the NHL headlines recently. Colorado has traded away Mikko Rantanen, who is in the final year of his deal, to the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, he passed through Chicago on his way to Carolina, and they retained 50% of his salary. Chicago also passed Taylor Hall onto the Hurricanes and received their own, because there was a pick swap, they got their own third-round pick back from the Hurricanes for this. In return, the Colorado Avalanche received Jack Drury and Marty Necas from the Hurricanes, as well as several picks. I want to say there were 3 of them involved. 2 or 3. So, what does this do? First, it alleviates some cap space in Colorado. They have said that they were unable to come to an agreement with Rantanen. Now, it has come out from Rantanen's camp and Rantanen's side that he was unaware that they weren't going to be able to reach an agreement. As far as he knew, there was still ongoing discussions, and they weren't that far apart in his mind, and he wasn't asking for the moon. So
apparently they disagreed.
Yeah, he was surprised by the trade. And that's what I will say. And he said it himself, that he was very surprised by this trade. For Chicago, people went, they got hosed. Yes and no. Chicago isn't going anywhere. Taylor Hall was playing on your fourth line, and he's a $6 million player. You essentially didn't have to retain any of his salary. $6 million off the cap gone right there, and Rantanen is in the final year of his deal. Thus, at the end of the year, the 50% you retained from that also goes away. Basically, you cleared up cap space and got a third-round pick for it. You weren't going to get maybe a third-rounder for Taylor Hall. He hasn't been impressive this year, and he's 33, and you sign him to a $6 million deal a couple of years back, not really living up to that, thus, nobody's really going to take him. You got lucky to dump him where you did. So, in reality, not horrible for Chicago. Could have been way worse. The Avs also got back Marty Necas, and they get back Jack Drury. Necas is currently about a point per game player. He's been playing very, very well for the Canes. We'll see if he continues to do well, if they put him up on a line with Nathan MacKinnon, which that could be fun to watch. Jack Drury, I think, is going to take a little more time to come into his game, but Colorado's a good place to do it. Rantanen down in Carolina, we'll see how he gels with people, but he's no longer going to be on a line with MacKinnon. He's now probably going to be on a line with Aho, so we'll see how that plays out there, and how the two sides and everything gel. From everything we've heard, neither of those teams are done making moves. The trade deadline is in March, and we will have a 2-week, I think there's a 2-week break for the Four Nations Cup at the end of February. So that'll hit, and then, yeah. Other big hockey news is Wild superstar Kirill Kaprizov came back for 3 games and is now set to have surgery that will take him out for about a month.
Oh, of course.
The thing, well, it makes sense from a specific standpoint. He thought that he was by the injury in the lower body that had been bothering him and kept him out for a while. And he had been trying not to get the surgery, but now it turns out it's still bugging him. He wants the surgery, so they're going to go ahead and he's going to get the surgery. But if you look at it, it's the end of January. He's going to miss the first couple of weeks of February, and then, because he's not involved in the Four Nations Cup, he's not going to miss any games. So basically, he misses 2 weeks worth of games and then 2 weeks of nothing, and he'll be back in time for the trade deadline and everything else. There are rumors swirling that the Wild may trade him, and I think that would be a humongous mistake because he's also in the last year of his deal. So it's whether or not Billy Guerin thinks that he can get a deal with Kaprizov done, and if there's still positive dialogue between Billy Guerin and the agent. So that's something that has to also be looked at. Now, NFL news, and oh boy, is there a lot of it. We already mentioned that Ben Johnson became the Chicago coach.
Mm-hmm.
Not long after we signed off, the following things happened. Boy, were there a lot of them.
Do you actually have the timeline for that one? The full timeline?
I do not. I wish I did, because that literally happened the next day.
I'm going to pull it up, because I think there is a full timeline.
Because we had talked about it a little bit.
Ridiculous.
We had talked about it a little bit. So let's talk about that one first, because that's fun. So we had mentioned that Liam Cohen had withdrawn his name from the Jacksonville search after their first round of interviews, and had no interest in becoming the head coach of their organization. Literally, yeah. And that happened. We talked about it on the last podcast because you brought it up.
Yes, we did. Yep.
And then literally the next day, I was editing the podcast and news came out that GM Trent Baalke of the Jaguars had been released by Shad Khan. He'd gotten the axe. And as soon as that happened, Liam Cohen reversed course, and within a day, he was the head coach of the Jaguars.
So basically, here's what happened. I actually have the full timeline of events down. So, okay. Here's what happened. I don't actually have the dates, but I can tell you the days and how it had happened. So, he went in to interview for the Jaguars job, ultimately decided later on to pull out, I assume due to differences with Baalke, the GM.
Yes. That's what it feels like.
Basically what happened is he pulled out of the job. He had agreed to terms with the Bucs organization to become the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league.
Yep.
That same day, Shad Khan fires Trent Baalke reaches out to Liam and goes, well, now that Trent's not here, would you reconsider? Liam says, yes, I would reconsider. And apparently, after already agreeing to the deal with the Bucks, by the way, no contract signed.
No contract signed. No ink on paper.
Just a verbal agreement. He leaves that same night and ends up at the Jaguars in the next day in the morning. Apparently, the Bucks had tried to reach out during that entire day, the following day, to get Liam to come in to sign the contract, but could not reach him. No matter what they did, they could not reach him. Apparently, he was in the Jaguars building most of the day and finally ended up signing to become the head coach for the Jaguars by the end of that day. So needless to say,
the Buccaneers are not happy.
Bucks are pretty pissed off.
But there's
they feel like they're coached, basically.
Yeah, but there's nothing that.
But there's unfortunately nothing they can do because there was no contract signed.
Yeah, that's business, baby.
Yeah. I will say, if you look at Liam's history, this is not uncommon. Like if you really look at his job history, like it's almost every year or every other year he's jumping to a new position or a new job somewhere. I mean, he's been the Rams offensive coordinator 3 different times. Like, he bounces all over the place. So this is not an uncommon thing for him. Now, granted, I will say, if he's bouncing back into positions, which it was showing, it means that obviously those places must have enjoyed having him there, so they were okay with coming him back. But I will say, from a personal level, seeing somebody finish a season, bounce to another job, and then bounce back and doing all that, it doesn't look good for sustainability as a head coach. And that's my only concern.
I think that's why it took so long for him to get consideration as a head coach.
Yeah. Also, on top of that, unfortunately for Liam, I don't know if you saw the press conference.
He kind of accidentally roasted.
He roasted himself.
Yeah.
Duval. And no one clapped. It was almost like the please clap situation. I loved it. That was bad. That was rough.
That was rough. That was rough. He did say he wanted to play with more of an edge, which I can't say is wrong. No. They do need to play that way. Hopefully he can get them. This was like, listen, you know what this press conference felt like? The opposite of the Dan Quinn press conference.
Well, not only I'll say what it reminds me of. It reminds me of It reminds me of trying to be a Mike McDaniel press conference. Like, it felt like he tried to force being a goofball. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he might legitimately be just a goofball and was just, like, really nervous because it's his first head coaching gig, which is totally understandable. But it came across as almost being forced goofy. And I'm not going to lie to you, if your players see that and they see that you're not being real with them, that's not going to fly very well.
We'll see how this goes.
So hopefully this is just a simple thing of, like, he was just really nervous and that's all it was.
Still don't think it was the worst coaching hire of the year so far, though.
You know, honestly, I don't think he's going to be a bad coach. I just think
No, I think it's good. We'll see how that all plays out. Now,
I just think the timeline of events are hilarious. That's all.
There's another couple of coaches that got hired very quickly.
Which ones do you want to talk about? Do we want to go down the list of good coaches to bad, or do you just want to randomly choose
Let's just go good to
ones?
bad. We've already talked, I think, about the Patriots.
Yes, we talked about the Patriots ones. Though I will say his choice of coordinators are interesting.
I believe he brought in McDaniels again.
He did.
How does that guy keep getting jobs? You know what, though? I will say one thing. He's a good offensive coordinator.
Is he, though?
Yeah, I think he is.
All I'm going to say is, when you have Tom Brady as your quarterback...
We'll get to see this year and see if he's actually...
And then don't forget the other times he was in there with Mac Jones. He was offensive coordinator that one year for Mac Jones. That was really bad.
I thought he was offensive coordinator for Mac Jones' first season, and it was fine.
I thought it was the second one. I might be misremembering then. Either way.
We'll see how this all goes.
That first season wasn't great either, to be fair, but it was far better than the second one.
Yes. Because I thought his second season was Matt Patricia.
Was it? Was it Matt Patricia? It might have been. I don't know.
Because Matt Patricia's a defensive coordinator, and they made him the offensive coordinator.
I thought it was. For some reason, I'm thinking about those swaps, so I don't know. I might be misremembering those.
Anyway,
either way, bad.
Either way, bad. Yeah. So, we've obviously talked about that. So to me, top of the pops, you got to go with the Raiders hiring Pete Carroll. That's brilliant.
I'm not gonna lie. I did the equivalent of popping a mental boner. Like, I was just like, oh, that's such a good one. Like honestly, you lose out on Ben Johnson, yeah, but getting a Pete Carroll to actually like think about it this way, the Raiders needed a Pete Carroll. They needed somebody who's going to come in and change the entire culture.
Exactly.
They didn't want to bring in a Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson's like, you got a team that's ready to go, and he's going to slot in. He's going to be able to make that high
firepower. That's what they're thinking about in Chicago, because they have enough talent on that team.
Yeah, Raiders didn't have that.
No.
Raiders absolutely had not. So bringing in a Pete Carroll to completely change the culture, and also those 3 rules. I fucking love those 3 fucking rules.
You heard what Mark Davis said, right?
Oh, man. Which one?
He's very happy to have the thing that he said about Brady.
Yeah. Yes.
Because, so for those of you out there that are not as plugged in, Mark Davis is the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and he stated that he was very happy to have Tom Brady as a minority owner because it brings a football voice back into the building that has been missing ever since Gruden had to leave because he got his head cut off.
Which it sounds like, honestly, Gruden might end up winning his lawsuit, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Turns out there might have actually been some unfortunate, scandalous things going on there.
There were some unfortunate, scandalous things going on all over the league. Let's not.
There was, but it sounds like that he may have been
unfairly targeted because there was a lot more, and a lot of other people.
It seems like he was used as a potential. It seems like they were trying to use him as the
scapegoat.
Yes. Yes.
Did he say everything that they said he said? Yes. But was there a lot more there that would have hurt a lot more people? Yes. Should a lot more people not be in football? Yes.
Yes. So we'll see where that goes. I think
if I were the NFL, I think I would pay him to dismiss that lawsuit and just disappear.
I don't know if you can even pay him to disappear, because I think, honestly, at this point, I almost wonder if it's like, has he done his time? Can he just come back slowly? Maybe come in as like a general manager. He's not directly involved, maybe, or something.
On podcasts again, so
and he's knowledgeable enough. That's like, we'll see.
I'd hire him as an advisor to the GM or something.
I was gonna say at bare minimum, I was thinking advisor, some type of front office work. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, brains. Right after that, we got word that the Jets had completed. Go ahead.
I was going to say real quick on that one. In case you didn't hear it, I thought it was interesting. Pete Carroll also mentioned, as far as looking for a quarterback, he was also going to lean on Tom Brady to help find a quarterback as well. So
that makes some sense as well.
It makes sense, but I found it interesting.
Also, for those of you who don't know, there is a rivalry between Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh.
I didn't know that that's gone back so far, though.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That goes back a long ways. I think that goes back, because I want to say they were on a coaching...
That goes back to college.
I want to say that goes... Well, I know it goes to Stanford, USC in college. Mm-hmm. But I think it might go back further than that, because I think they were on a coaching staff together somewhere and had a rivalry there, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
Like, those two have got...
I don't think it's like a dislike for each other. I think it's just a natural...
I do believe it's like an actual, like, competitive rivalry, not hate. Like, I don't hate you. It's not beef. It's actual competition. Yeah. Like the good kind.
I think they just enjoy playing against each other because they both have such a different view of how to play, and sometimes one works and sometimes the other works.
Yeah. They have a different view of how to play and coach and how the game should be played, and they enjoy pitting themselves against one another.
Which one's better today?
Yep. So that's going to be fun. So, as I have mentioned, the AFC West coaches now is a plethora of Hall of Famers, because you have
Hall of Fame legends,
Harbaugh, Carroll, Peyton, and Andy Reid.
Every single one going in the Hall of Fame.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all going into Canton.
At some point. Some will get there sooner than others, but all of them will end up in Canton at some point.
All right. Next one.
As you were saying, yep.
The Jets. The Jets have concluded their head coaching search. They've also concluded their GM search. They have hired an assistant GM from the Broncos to be their new GM, and their head coach is Aaron Glenn, the DC from the Lions, is now the head coach of the Jets. The fact that they keep finding defensive coordinators as head coaches is funny to me.
So, I agree. And originally, I wasn't sure about this pick, but I saw that press conference that he did,
a really
and
good press conference.
You know what? He's the right guy.
I think they do. I think they do as well.
They got a guy that is not afraid to joust the media.
I will say the new GM and head coach, it's come out there non-committal on the future of Aaron Rodgers with their franchise.
Sort of. Honestly, Aaron Glenn's answer on it has just been mostly like, I'm just evaluating the situation, just like anybody else is.
Yep, and I think
Rodgers hasn't been committal
for both
either.
of them as well. So,
well, that's what I was gonna say. Rodgers hasn't come out and been committal either. So it's like, why should they if Rodgers hasn't? So
and
like, I think they're both sides are just feeling each other out at this point.
Exactly, and I think that's a smart move for both of them at the moment. It makes the most sense. We'll see how all of that works out. The Jets have a very good roster. I will say that it is funny that Robert Saleh, who came from the San Francisco 49ers as their defensive coordinator, the head coach of the Jets, is now back in San Francisco as their defensive coordinator.
It makes sense, to be honest.
Welcome home.
I'm not going to... Honestly, it makes sense. I'm
not even going to be mad about it. It makes perfect sense.
He does it really well with Shanahan. He's obviously got the history there.
Yep.
And for the 49ers, their defense had dropped in how good they were in comparison to when he was there. So why not? It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then the final, because we've already mentioned Cohen, and then the final coach to get hired, Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator from the Cowboys, has become the Cowboys' head coach. And I believe he said this team is built to win quickly. I'm sorry, did you watch the games we watched?
I just don't understand. It's like they didn't even bother interviewing anybody else.
So somebody put it out on our podcast, guys that are actually in the industry. And they actually said, do you know how we know so often that coaches are going to get fired? It's because months and months and months in advance, teams have begun doing prep work to get rid of the coach. That's sometimes why it takes so long. It takes a little while, but they started doing prep work because they're starting to build profiles on people they'd like to interview. They're starting to ask around. You begin to hear those rumblings in the industry, and you begin to know who's probably on the hot seat and who probably isn't.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "We got none of that from Dallas. We got none of it out of New England. The difference: New England went out and made a hire of a coach that everybody knows to be a good coach.
Well, on top of that, they kind of already let's be honest. Before they even hired Gerard Mayo, I promise you, they already knew they wanted to pick up Vrabel.
Yeah, so
I think that's why Vrabel didn't take on a head coaching job anywhere else, because I think he knew.
Yeah, we knew Vrabel was probably going there. Vrabel is a disciple. We get where that's going. But he's already cut his teeth in Tennessee and has been proven that he knows what he's doing. He's a good head coach.
Exactly.
Schottenheimer is the exact opposite of that. We don't know what we're getting with him. He is the son of Marty Schottenheimer, who's an offensive wizard. But we don't know what we're getting with him. And you did hardly any prep work whatsoever. You let the contract expire and couldn't come to terms with.
That's exactly what it felt like.
It sounds like what happened is you thought you were going to keep McCarthy around.
Yeah.
And then when he asked for more money, you let him go without having a backup plan. That's
exactly what it sounds
essentially what it sounds like happened in Dallas.
Because that's what I was gonna say. Is it sounds like they started flying by their pants because they had no idea what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. And by the time you guys started moving to try to interview people, they were all gone. So the only thing you can do is promote from within.
So dumb.
And people are making fun of you now, Jerry, by saying, "Hey, you can only work with people you know that are in your comfort zone."
Yeah, very clearly.
And you clearly said, no, I don't. And yet, that's exactly what you've done ever since. There's been 2 people that you've made that are major outside hires that didn't fit your comfort zone. Jimmy Johnson, who won you a Super Bowl, a couple of them, and Bill Parcells, who did not win you a Super Bowl, but you got kind of close with him a few times. Everybody else that's been in your comfort zone has stunk. This is a reason we can't call it a drought anymore. We need a new word. That you have been 30 years without an NFC title game. 30 years. Every other NFC team has been to the NFC Championship game in the playoffs except you in that time frame.
At this point, you have to call it what it is. An absolute and utter total failure from top to bottom. Mismanagement from top to bottom.
100%.
I don't know what else you call it.
I don't know what else you can call it either. Now, there's still one team that has not concluded a head coaching search. And at this point, I don't know what they're going to do.
I was going to say, what are they going to do? They have to get a guy from college, right?
That's the only thing left. Interim head coach? It doesn't sound like...
It's got to be a college guy, right? Like, that's it.
Are you getting a college guy? Because it doesn't sound like... It doesn't sound like the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, Flores, wants to go anywhere else now. It sounds like
the position that apparently that he was interested in is gone now. So
yep, whatever he wanted is gone. He has no interest in your position. Even if you were to back up Brink's truck up to his house, I don't think he has any interest in it. Are you going to keep the guy that was your interim head coach for another year and then see what you can do? What are you doing, New Orleans? What are you doing? Nobody knows. You know when we'll find out?
I haven't even heard like any rumors or anything. That's the weirdest part. Like I'm hearing nothing. It's so mum to the point where I'm looking at them going, are you guys gonna do something? Are you dead? Like I feel like that meme where you're poking something and going, come on, do something.
Like you're poking like
yeah. Like it feels like they're literally lying over dead. I don't know what they're doing.
Tom Benson, are you awake? Are you alive? Has somebody checked on him? Do we need to call in a wellness check?
Do we need a wellness check? Did anyone try to call his phone recently? Is his phone even on? Is it on silent? Someone check to make sure his phone's not on silent. Maybe he's got like 100 missed calls from people.
Somebody go by his mansion, knock on the door.
I'm just so, like, it's so weird because I heard a handful of interviews early on, and then that was it. Nothing ever since. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine that they just like lost out on all the guys they thought they had a chance at, and now we're just going, and are floundering. Like,
I feel like that's what they're doing. I think they're probably going to hire.
Or the only other possibility, which I have heard as a rumor, is that there is a possibility that they're waiting on one of the Eagles coordinators to pick up, and they only can't do it until they're done with
Fangio. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Yes,
that's what I've also
because
heard as a
both
rumor.
of them have looked really good this year.
That's the only thing that would make sense.
100%. If they were looking either at a Chiefs or an Eagles coordinator, and they won't be able to talk to or interview them until after the Super Bowl.
Until after the game.
Yep. So that's also a possibility. I did want to throw that out too. Like, that could be a
It's the only one that makes sense to me, though, at this point.
Yes.
Like, because we haven't done anything, it's the only possibility, I think, at this point.
Yes, I agree. I do not disagree with that whatsoever. Before we roll into the games...
Can you imagine they go for Matt Nagy?
Or Mike McCarthy?
Oh, God. Oh, dude. It could happen. It
could.
It's legitimately possible. I didn't even think about that. Oh, God.
Doug Peterson.
You know what? He'd be better than those other two.
Probably.
To be honest with you. Because even though the Jaguars stunk this last year, the year prior wasn't that bad.
Well, and I'm trying to
and the year prior to that one was okay too.
How much of it was Peterson and how much of it was just Balky being a moron?
I know, that's what I don't know. The thing is, at the same time, though, I can understand Shad Khan's decision to just go with both because, like, ultimately you don't know what Doug has or hasn't done, and ultimately Balky, I don't know why he realized so late that he was a problem, but he finally got rid of him. So,
yeah. Anyway, so real quick, Cooperstown had their election, and they're sending 3 people into the hall. 3. They're sending in Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia,
CC,
and Ichiro Suzuki. Now, we have a bone to pick with the hall because Ichiro Suzuki missed a clean sweep by 1 vote. One motherfucker didn't think that Ichiro was worth the Hall of Fame. Now, here's the problem. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if you didn't know, the reason why I think this is insane, I never got to watch Ichiro like you did. I never got to see any of the games. But hearing some of the stats and hearing that I think it was only twice in his entire career where he batted under 300 is fucking insane.
That is a lifetime batting average of like 317 or something.
Yeah, that's batshit insane. The fact that guy doesn't get a clean sweep off of that is donkey balls.
Not only that, but he gets on base all the time. He had a plethora of stolen bases.
Yeah,
could hit for power too if he needed to.
Yeah, his stats were insane.
His stats were bonkers. And you look at it and you just go, that guy gets out of bed and he hits 300 with a number 2 pencil. It doesn't matter.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hand him a pencil, he's going to hit 300.
I don't know how. He was just that good.
His dad he doesn't have the greatest of relationships with his father, was my understanding, but his dad drilled hitting into him as a child. One of those. Where it worked, but it cost you the relationship with your son.
Your son, yeah. And on top of that, it also can turn into, like, the kid maybe not loving the game anymore. Sometimes that happens.
Sometimes. But Ichiro was...
Thankfully, it didn't happen for him.
Ichiro was an absolutely fantastic player. And now, the problem is we will never know who decided to leave him off the ballot. Because
they're all anonymous.
Ballots are anonymous and private.
Unless the person themselves outs themselves, we will never know.
Which, in the past, people that have not gotten in unanimously and have been left off by 1 vote, Derek Jeter, the writer has self-identified. That one, I believe, was a Boston Red Sox writer, and everybody kind of went, you're a dick. We get it, but you're still a dick.
You're still a dick, yeah.
Yeah. The only person that's ever made it in unanimously to this day is Mariano Rivera.
Yep. Shouldn't be the only one, but is the only one.
Yeah. Shouldn't be. Like, Babe Ruth should be unanimous.
Yeah, I don't know how that isn't.
Hank Aaron.
I don't know, man.
There's a bunch of people that should.
There's a couple that you could probably throw there as well.
So, Sabathia. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think
had a couple really good seasons.
Ballot. I think I would have waited another year or 2 on him.
He had like that one or two really stellar.
He had 1 or 2 really super stellar years.
I can understand. Yeah.
And he had some decent years in Cleveland before New York.
I
get it, but at the same time, like, I think he gets in based on the fact that he pitched forever. Well.
He pitched for a long time, and the times when he was New York was really good
for a very long time and stellar for a brief period.
Yes,
and helped win a couple of World Series, so that always helps.
I think exactly. I was going to say during the stellar times is when he won the World Series.
Wagner had some of the best regular season stats ever, but if you look at his postseason stats,
let's not talk about those.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's put those to the side and pretend those don't exist.
Because
those don't exist.
What
are you talking about? Those don't exist.
So bad. But yes, unfortunately. And then there were some people that fell off. They didn't make the minimum threshold to stay in, and they will need to be looked at much later in their careers as potential, like, what do they call old timers, the veterans group.
Veterans.
Yeah. All right. Outside of that, I think they should make the votes public. I do.
I think it's time that they need to make the votes public. I think more than just the writers should also get votes.
I also think that you need to look at it from a standpoint of how long it's taking these people to get their first looks, because by the time they get a first look, the people that watched them play, a lot of them, I would say at least half of them, are retired by that point.
Yeah.
You know?
And how much are they still paying attention to the game? You know, like, it's just. Yeah, I think other people besides just the Writers Guild. I think it's like, what is it? Not the Writers Guild. It's the Writers. They have
Sports Writers Association or something.
Sports Writers Association. Yeah, I think more than just them themselves should have votes at this point. Like, we're in a modern era. It's not the same as when it was 40, 50 years ago. We need that stuff needs to change with the times, and it hasn't. And it's finally time that I think we need to look at making some adjustments to that.
Yeah.
That's just not everyone agrees with that.
I agree. All right. Let's.
What are you doing? Come on.
Okay. Let's talk about these games.
Want to talk about the games first? Okay.
Do we want to do the games first, or do we want to do the NFL awards first?
I mean, we can kind of do it in any order, to be honest. It doesn't really matter.
Let's do the game. You know what? No, let's do the awards first. Then we'll do the games, because then we can get all the stuff that comes around the games as well, with like next week's stuff and the everything else. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Does that make sense to you? You know, hot potato showers, everything else. Oh, Lord.
Update to the news for the Cowboys.
Go right ahead.
They are expected to hire Matt Eberflus as their new defensive coordinator.
Oh, that's right. Angry Man walked off the job.
Yep. Like Zimmer left.
Angry Man.
Angry Man. Always angry.
Always angry.
Just super angry all the time.
All right.
Anyways, go ahead.
So, we're going to start at the top, obviously. We're going to talk about AP, Most Valuable Player. So what we've done here is we have taken the list of the people that have been nominated officially by the NFL for the award. Chris and I are then going to put out whom each of us thinks should win the award. And then I have, and we'll see if Chris agrees with me, who I think the award will go to.
Yeah.
So for the MVP, the nominees are Josh Allen, quarterback, Bills; Saquon Barkley, running back, Eagles; Joe Burrow, quarterback, Bengals; Jared Goff, quarterback, Lions; and Lamar Jackson, quarterback, Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think should get the award?
Well, I can tell you outright who I think, and I believe we probably have the same person. It should be Saquon. Saquon Barkley absolutely deserves the MVP. Are you kidding me? The regular season? Hey, did you watch those games?
I did.
Saquon Barkley should absolutely be MVP.
He's absolutely fantastic. The problem is
Eagles would not be where they're at without Saquon.
No,
Barkley.
they would.
He quite literally carried them on
would
that.
not. But
yeah,
I think do I think he should be? Maybe. Yes, he got close. Had he played that last game and broken the record, there's no doubt.
And that's why I'm saying that it's not fair to say that he shouldn't be. I think he should be MVP because I'm tired of MVP being a fucking quarterback award because I know what's going to be picked, and I know probably what you picked then because you picked Josh fucking Allen.
No, I did not.
I know.
I said the NFL will pick Josh Allen.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what I meant.
I
Josh Allen's going to
picked
definitely
Joe Burrow, and the only reason he's not going to win is because he's on a losing team. His stats were stupid.
his stats were stupid on a bad football team because he was trying to do better to outdo his defense.
I looked at it though, and I said, it's really, yeah, okay, I kind of get where you're coming from, but still, Burrow is the guy that I would pick. Allen is
I can
the guy
understand it because I did the same thing when they showed the stats. I did the same thing as you. I looked at his stats and went, Jesus fucking Christ! But then I looked at it and went, but he wouldn't have had to do all that if it wasn't for a shitty defense.
Or if he did do all of that, they would have won way more games had their defense been any good.
Exactly.
Yeah. The NFL is going to pick Josh Allen. That's going to be the guy. Yeah, it's going to be Josh Allen. I'd like it to be Lamar, but it's going to be Josh this year. It's Josh's award.
Lamar was good, but he had a couple of games that were kind of iffy, I think. And Josh Allen through the regular season looked pretty good. I will say his postseason, both games looked like fucking dog shit, and I'm gonna get to that.
Actually, the one against the Chiefs didn't look as bad as people think it did.
It looked bad at the start. The second half was better. First half was awful.
Yeah, he didn't even really run like he should have. So I don't know if he was dealing with an injury, maybe?
That first half was pretty bad, though.
Yes. Now, AP Defensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Bond, Philadelphia Eagles linebacker. Myles Garrett, defensive end, Browns. Trey Hendrickson, defensive end, Bengals. Patrick Surtain II, Broncos, cornerback. TJ Watt, linebacker, Steelers. Who do you have?
So I will say this one was probably one of the harder ones because I think all of them are fairly equal in different ways. I don't even know which one the NFL necessarily is going to pick.
I have a fairly good idea.
I have a potential guess between two people just because name recognition sometimes does carry weight. But I personally think Patrick Surtain played really well, and he's my pick. I would pick Patrick Surtain.
I can understand that, and I looked at him, but I went with Zach Bond.
I can understand that.
Dude had a truckload of tackles, and I looked at it and I thought, we so often associate this award with sacks and interceptions, but are you then bypassing the running back too often and letting him get more yards? Are you where are you on actual impact plays that are not sacks? And that's why I said I think Zach Bond should get it. He played his ass off.
I can understand that.
I can understand that. I think the NFL will give it to Trey Hendrickson just based on the fact that he had 17.5 sacks.
I could understand that, but I think the only reason he won't get it is because of how bad the rest of that team is. And so that's why I was saying I could understand either Myles or TJ getting it, even though I don't think either one of them played a good enough year to
I don't think either one of them played a very good year this year.
No. But sometimes, like I say, name recognition can sometimes carry more weight than it should.
Will probably be one of those two. I figured it will be Hendrickson that the NFL will pick. I think it should be Bond or Surtain. Both of them deserve it.
I think both of them played a much better year than previous years. Yeah, no doubt.
AP Offensive Player of the Year. Barkley, we've already mentioned. Burrow, we've mentioned. Jamar Chase, wide receiver, Bengals. Derrick Henry, running back, Ravens. Lamar Jackson, whom we've already mentioned. Yep. Who do you got?
So, because I already put Barkley as my MVP, I obviously didn't pick him here, but this is where I would put him if he didn't get MVP, so I imagine that's probably what you picked if you didn't. However, because I didn't put Barkley here because I had him as my MVP, I put Jamar here. Because, just like you said with Burrow, without Jamar, they wouldn't have been able to do that either.
No, and I agree with that, but I put Barkley here because he's going to probably miss out on the MVP, sadly.
And he'll get the
NFL Player of the Year. But or should get the Offensive Player of the Year, and if he doesn't,
if he doesn't get MVP, he should get the Offensive Player.
If he doesn't, I think the NFL might go with Joe Burrow here. Again, just due to the ridiculous numbers of stats.
I can see it.
Yeah, it's either going to be, to me, it's either Barkley or Burrow. Chase has an outside shot at it. Henry doesn't have a chance because if Barkley
started off really strong, but not after that.
Yeah, no, and Jackson could get it as a consolation, but his numbers don't match up to either Barkley or Burrow.
No.
So, yes. Oh, I forgot to mark this one down, I think, but oh, no, I didn't. AP Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Mhm.
Brock Bowers, tight end Raiders. Jaden Daniels, quarterback Commanders. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver Giants. Bo Nix, quarterback Broncos. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver Jaguars.
So I think personally this is a 2-horse race.
I agree.
I think it's between Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels, no
I
question.
agree.
I personally picked Jaden Daniels just because I was more impressed with what he could do because I wasn't expecting as much. Brock Bowers I already knew was going to be probably really good, and I think the only reason Brock Bowers broke as many records as he did was simply due to the fact that he was the only one. Yeah. Now, that could be enough to say that he deserves the record or deserves the rookie award, and I can understand that. I personally give it to Jaden. I can understand why people would pick Brock, but that's where I'm at.
I also give it to Jaden, and I think the NFL will as well. This is one of those things where I think all three parties align. Like, Jaden Daniels had such a spectacularly, stupidly good rookie year, despite Brock Bowers breaking records. Like, that's why in our awards that we're going to do next week, I broke them into AFC and NFC. So we're going to be able to pick both Brock and Jaden, who I'm sure we both will.
Probably, yeah. I'd be shocked if either one of us decides to do something different outside of just for shockgasm.
Yeah. But yes, absolutely, Jaden Daniels should win that award. Now, AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. This didn't take as much for me as I thought it was going to when I looked at all the rookies.
I honestly kind of went off my gut because there were 2 people I thought had a chance at it, and I didn't remember which one had the proper stats, so I just kind of checked it off because I wasn't paying attention. So, if I'm wrong, you can correct me.
if you're thinking of the 2 I think you're thinking of, they're on the same team.
They are on the same team.
Yes. That turned out to be a great draft for them.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so start at the top. Cooper DeJean, Eagles, cornerback. Braden Fisk, Rams, defensive end. Quinion Mitchell, Eagles, cornerback. Chop Robinson, Dolphins, linebacker. And Jared Verse, Rams, linebacker.
So I thought about checking his stats, but at this point I was still writing stuff down and realized I was running out of time. So I don't remember which one technically had better stats, so I gave it to Jared Verse, but I couldn't remember if Braden Fisk had better stats.
He does have the better stats.
But both of them were excellent picks.
Yes. Those have worked out very well. I said it should be Jared Verse. I think the NFL is also going to give it to Jared Verse.
I think
I don't know that there's much of a competition this year for it.
I know some people are saying Quinion recently, and Quinion's good, but I don't think this.
Yeah, no. Verse has been
the same way.
Verse has been amazing this year.
I just don't think it stacks up quite the same way.
Now, before I read these off, do you want to go off on these?
Yes, actually. So the next award we're going to talk about is the Comeback Player of the Year. And I have feelings on it, and it's something I've talked about before, but I wanted to double down on it. I think the AP is retarded, and I don't like the media that's surrounding it either. The idea that certain players shouldn't be allowed in based on certain criteria, if we're going to do Comeback Player of the Year, just doesn't make sense to me. For example, the big one, obviously, that stands out. A lot of people are saying Sam Darnold should not be on this list based on the AP guidelines. And here's my argument for why that doesn't make fucking sense. Let's say you get drafted high, and you're expected to be a starter for a team. You start, you suck, you do a bad job, you get traded, you suck there too. You end up becoming a second stringer, you get benched. You end up becoming a second stringer, traded somewhere else. You barely see the field. Your career effectively is almost in the dumpster. It is practically gone. You almost have nothing left. And so to come to a new team that does start you and to have major success, I think is a comeback award. Because frankly, it doesn't make sense to state otherwise. To state that he still had a potential career. No, he didn't. His career was almost in the can. It was practically gone. Without this opportunity, it probably would have been dead.
Yeah, and
so to state that doesn't deserve a comeback, at least a nomination, is fucking stupid.
Like at some point, Kenny Pickett might be up for this award.
Yeah, because he got drafted high, started, ended up having to get benched, ended up getting traded, and now his career is effectively, as far as a starter is concerned, almost done.
Yep.
Mac Jones is the same way.
Yep, Mac Jones.
It frustrates me to say that these people don't deserve comeback player just because, well, they're still got a career in the industry. Well, that doesn't fucking matter. It's about starters. It's about getting on the field.
Smith won this award, and he was never injured like that.
Yeah. Heck, we had Joe Flacco do it. And they're saying, like, oh, we just don't want those kinds of players anymore to get comeback player of the year.
You only want it for injuries. F off.
You only want it for injuries. That's stupid. That's dumb. And if we're going by that, DeMar shouldn't be on this list because of his injury was the year prior. Just saying. So, if we're going to go based on that, DeMar should not also be on this list.
But did he play the previous year? The year after that? Or did he
after that, yeah, he did. You know, he played. Okay. He did come and play last year, yeah.
Okay, I could not remember.
And Joe Burrow. You really going to put Joe Burrow on this list? Really?
Yeah, but he missed what?
You're gonna argue Sam Darnold can't be on this list, but Joe Burrow should be
6-7 games.
Yeah, it wasn't even a half season.
Yeah, the only people that I feel like should be on this list
at that point, Matthew Stafford should be on this list then, because he was out for almost half this season that 1 year. Like, what the fuck are we doing? I'm sorry. I'm just really upset that they're trying to make it. They're trying to make it into an injury award, and that's not what this is.
Yeah.
It's never been about that, and that's not what it should be.
They're trying to do gatekeeping, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
Now, actual players.
With that being said, go ahead and name off the players. Yeah.
Joe Burrow, whom we've already talked about. Sam Darnold, quarterback, Vikings. J.K. Dobbins, running back, Chargers. Christian Gonzalez, cornerback, Patriots. And DeMar Hamlin, safety, Bills.
Now, obviously, I'm biased. I picked Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I picked Sam Darnold as well.
Because I went over why. I mean, come on.
I think the NFL career dead. Probably picked DeMar Hamlin.
Oh, DeMar, just because he came back from a heart attack. That was the year. Sorry. I'm still mad about that. That was the year prior. He should have got that the year prior then.
Yeah, he should have got it last year.
Yeah. So, that's my feelings on it.
And
it feels like they're going to give it to him because they feel like they should have given it to him last year, but they didn't because they gave it to fucking Joe Flacco.
Exactly.
So, there we go.
So, and then we have I don't have the assistant coaches because I don't know any of the assistant coaches, and I don't give enough.
Oh, I did. I pulled them up.
Okay, if you want to talk about that, let's do Coach of the Year first, and then we can do assistant coaches. AP Coach of the Year. Dan Campbell from the Lions, Kevin O'Connell from the Vikings, Sean Payton from the Broncos, Dan Quinn of the Commanders, and Andy Reid from the fucking Chiefs.
Yep. Again, biased, picked KOC, but I think it's also, and I'll explain, while I am biased, I admit that I am biased, and I imagine that you might, maybe you didn't pick him, but...
No, I did.
Okay. The reason why...
To me, it was between him and Dan Quinn.
Yes, but the reason why I went with KOC over Dan Quinn, and the main reason is because KOC it was more than just the 1 year to me, right? Like, it's the accumulation of... Look at what he's had to work with over the years, and look what he's produced.
Yep.
While Dan Quinn came out of nowhere with a really good quarterback. Let's be honest. Yeah, you have Jaden Daniels, who turns out to be a stud. Almost anybody might be able to make that work. KOC's got to work with Sam Darnold, which everyone thought was
Which is why I was like,
done.
That's why I went with KOC.
Like,
now, who do I think the NFL is going to give it to? Sadly, I think they're going to give it to Andy Reid. Simply,
actually, I think they'll give it to Dan. To be honest, I actually think they'll give it to Dan.
And the only reason I'm saying Andy Reid is because he's got a chance to do the one thing that nobody in coaching history and the NFL has ever done.
But this is why they can't do that, because very specifically, AP has announced and has talked about that these are regular season awards, and postseason cannot affect that. And so if they pick Andy Reid, and they cite their three-peat, then I get to sound off on that fucking comeback player of the year and say that they're full of fucking shit.
They're not going to cite the three-peat, but everybody's going to be thinking about it in their head.
That's what I'm saying. They could be dumb enough to do it.
Okay, now AP Assistant Coaches of the Year.
Coaches of the Year. They are all names you know, by the way. First one, Joe Brady. I believe he was the offensive coordinator for... Oh, which one's Joe Brady offensive coordinator for? Hold on. I had it at the top of my head, and I didn't write it down because I'm stupid. Give me 1 second. I know he's the offensive coordinator. I'm just trying to remember which one it was. Which team was it? For the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. You're dumb. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Yep.
Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Vikings. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. And 5, Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Lions. I'll ask you this time, who would you pick out of that list?
You know what? You're going to laugh at me. But
maybe. I know. I think my pick might make you laugh too, so we'll see. Maybe we've got the same pick. That'd be hilarious.
But considering how much he did, as everything fell apart around him.
Are you picking Aaron Glenn? I picked Aaron Glenn, buddy. Let's go.
I looked at that and I said,
I did the same thing.
For a guy who he held that defense together as the injuries kept mounting, he kept finding ways to slot people in and make it work. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, it's brilliant. Now, who do I think the NFL is going to go with? Probably Ben Johnson.
Probably Ben Johnson.
Probably. But Aaron Glenn deserves that award, to me.
I think so, too. And I won't lie. I also personally picked him a little bit due to that interview I watched, because after I watched that interview, I went, God damn, he's got the balls to fight off the Jets media. Let's go!
Yep. I'm very happy with that. He did not back down from the New York media at all. They were they came at him and he went, I got your ass.
Dude, I was going to say, I love how they kept trying to ask him about Aaron Rodgers, and he went, the answers will be the same every single time. I'm evaluating it. I'm going to make sure that all of you hear it. I'm evaluating. Nobody else asked me this goddamn question. And then he literally looked at the guy who asked him, and he goes, you will not get me on this. I don't care. You can ask that same question however many times you want. You will not get me to change my answer on that. And the guy's just like, well, what about this question? What do you look for in a quarterback? A winner. Move on. I was like, woo! Spicy Glenn.
Oh, yeah. He does not have, I think New Yorkers...
zero tolerance for those
here's the best
guys.
Part. New Yorkers as a whole are going to see that and go, yeah, we got a scrapper now. All right, that's what we want.
They're going to love that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As long as he can stick with it, I think that's the guy.
Don't whiffle waffle.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about the games. And that's the end of the awards, I believe.
It is, unfortunately.
We will do our awards next week. We will have our awards show.
So we have content outside the Super Bowl.
So we have content, because we have to wait for the Super Bowl after that.
Yep.
Thankfully, I've already listed all my awards, so I already know who I'm giving what, because I have to start school next week, and we're going to see how that goes.
I haven't done that yet, so that's on my list of things to do.
Well, I had to do mine because I knew I was starting school, and I was like, I better get this.
And you didn't know how much time that was going to take.
And I don't know how much time it's going to take, so.
Typically, they say about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours a day, typically, but that's just
my
I heard. I don't know if yours is going to be different.
They already warned me on mine that you're probably going to be spending 8 hours a day doing school stuff.
Oh, okay. So yeah, mine was only about 4 hours.
See, mine is a full-on batch degree.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Mine's a batch degree in 27 weeks.
Yeah, which is an accelerated program.
Or 27 months, pardon.
It's still an accelerated program.
That's an accelerated program because a batch is usually 4.
About 2 years versus 4, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it in just over 2 years
instead of... Over 2 years,
yeah. Doing it in just over 2 years instead of 4-year degree. So I'm getting a 4-year degree in just over 2 years, so it's an accelerated program, so I'm going to be working school stuff probably about 8 hours a day.
Yeah,
they told you you're probably going to be a full-time job. Block out some time.
Yep. And honestly, not gonna lie, if I had known that when I started my online schooling, I probably would have done that. But I didn't know that, so I tried to do online schooling and full-time employment, and I can tell you what, that don't fucking work.
That's why I'm glad.
I'm now debating if I end up wanting to go back to school for something else, but I'm not sure if I should because of how much money I don't have. So,
well, I'm happy because of my Chapter 33 post 9/11 GI Bill pays that stipend so that I don't have to work.
Exactly. That's the nice part about that.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to take full advantage of that right now. All right, game time. I really don't want to talk about these, which is why we talked about college for a little bit.
These both hurt, but for very different reasons.
These both hurt for very different reasons, and I think we both were wrong on both of them.
We were.
Don't remember.
I think we were being very hopeful, to be fair.
Let me see No. I picked the Eagles.
Oh, did you pick the Eagles?
I did pick the Eagles. So I went 1-1 and you went 0-2.
Yeah.
But speaking about it, Commanders at Eagles, I was kind of hoping the Commanders would win, but I kind of felt like that wasn't going to happen because of Saquon Barkley. And guess who won the pony on that one?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't just Saquon, but it was definitely a lot of Saquon.
I mean, right away, literally the Commanders go down and kick that field goal, and immediately after the kickoff, the first play from scrimmage, Saquon takes off for 60 fucking yards.
Yeah. So the reason why I want to say it's not entirely Saquon is the fact that the Eagles' defense made Jaden Daniels uncomfortable. In comparison to like all the games we've watched of Jaden, this was the most uncomfortable I've seen him play.
Especially in the
fourth quarter. And I think that's why. Yeah, and I think that's why.
Especially in the fourth quarter. They really... Vic Fangio dialed up some great crap against him.
Yeah. So I think
it also
ultimately
didn't help that it looked like every time the Commanders touched the ball, it had butter on it.
Yes. That was unfortunate, which also happened in the other game, by the way.
Yes.
For both sides.
But they didn't lose it. They fell on their own fumbles.
No, they just fumbled a lot and then fell on them.
Yes, they fumbled a lot, lost yards, and fell on them, so they didn't turn them over. All three fumbles in the Washington had in this game were turnovers, which you cannot do that. You cannot do that against the Eagles.
And then, of course, the one interception as well from Jaden.
And then the interception from Jaden. He threw a very bad pick.
He did. I was going to say that's one other thing that I noticed a lot in this game. I don't know if you noticed it, but he was overthrowing a lot of receivers in comparison to what he has done before.
Yeah.
So that's again why I'm saying I think he got pressured or uncomfortable or what.
Yeah, it felt like they were pulling off routes earlier or something.
Yeah.
About the only one that he hit in stride that I was impressed with was the touchdown throw where he hit friggin' Terry McLaurin, who then shed a tackle and just vanished.
Yep. Agreed. So I think, honestly, this might come down to I think he got nerved. I think he was nervous because he was hearing probably all the things that everyone else was talking about, being like, oh my God, are we going to get finally a rookie quarterback in the fucking Super Bowl? Oh my God!
Well, not only that, they've been to...
And then
I believe it was earlier this year, they went to Philly and lost. And then at the end of the season, Philly came to Washington and lost. But they didn't play any of their starters.
Exactly.
And I think that they also have been a false sense of security there.
So I just think there are a lot of things, unfortunately, went wrong at the wrong moments.
I mean, yeah. But Barkley, 15 carries, 118 yards, 3 tutties. Hurts also had 2 on the ground and 1 in the air. Those
Washington couldn't get a rushing
shoves.
game going. Oh, yeah, the brother. By the way, I'm so sick of the fucking... Okay. Do you want me to talk about this now, or do you want to wait until after we talk about everything else?
Let's fucking do this, because I know exactly what you're going to talk about, and I want to sound off on it, too.
So, I think, was it in the fourth quarter, or was it in the third quarter?
It might have been in the second quarter.
Really? Was it?
Might have
I thought it was after halftime.
It might have been the one in the second quarter. I can't remember if it was the one in the second quarter or if it was the one in the fourth quarter. But there were two of them.
I think it was the fourth quarter one that I'm thinking of, because that was the one with the refs that kept...
That's the one I'm talking about. I can't remember if that was the second quarter or the fourth quarter.
I thought it was the fourth one. Either way. It was either second or fourth quarter. And yeah, I'll talk about it as you look it up. So basically, the Eagles have driven down the field again. They're pretty much on, at this point, the 1 yard line, more or less. And they're setting up to do a brotherly shove. Which, by the way, I have my own feelings about. I think it should be considered technically an illegal formation, but due to semantics, it's not, and it pisses me off to no end. But they kept gearing up to do this brotherly shove, and the Commanders' defense kept trying to were trying to do their best to defend against the play. So they had one guy that would jump over the middle of the pack to try to get to the quarterback. He did that, I think, twice, and he ended up getting penalized and basically told that if he did that again, that they were going to call him for unsportsmanlike and get him kicked off the field, which I thought was stupid. Then there was a couple of encroachments because The Commanders' line obviously was trying to jump the ball as fast as possible so that they could try to stop the brotherly shove from happening, so that they could get in as early as possible. So the Commanders were going out of their way, their defense specifically, to do the best they could to basically defend against a play that was almost indefensible at this point. And they were doing the best they could, and the refs kept throwing flags, and they finally said, the refs finally came out and went, if you guys don't stop doing these penalties, we're just gonna automatically award the Eagles the touchdown because you guys can't stop getting the penalties. And immediately I was fucking angry because the idea, the only reason that you should ever invoke something like that is if you think that they're purposely causing penalties. And that is not what I saw. That is not what I saw at all. Knock it off, Loki. And that was very clearly what was not happening. They were trying to find... Loki, stop. They were clearly trying to find ways to prevent the play, and they were doing the best they could to snap the ball, or to jump over the line, or whatever it was. And for the refs to come out in the way that they did, and and say the things that they did, is disgusting. It is reprehensible. I think it's awful. That ref crew should never fucking ref a postseason game ever again. The idea that you don't just let the fucking players play and find a way to deal with a very hard to defend against play is disgusting. And honestly, obviously the defense had to just finally go, fine, fuck it, just let them have the touchdown, because that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, they still played for it. But here's what I would have done, because I'm an asshole. I would have told my defense to stand up and back away from the line and let everybody fall forward.
Dude, I would have, honestly, if I was the defensive coordinator, I would have just told my guys not to even line up. I would have just told them, stand there. Let them walk in. Fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care.
No, I would have made it look like we were going to.
Stand against the ref on that purpose.
I would have made it look like we were going to, and then just backed up immediately and let them fall in. And you know why? Hopefully somebody gets fucking hurt.
I wouldn't even done that. I just would have literally stood all my guys up and went, fine. Fuck you. Fuck the refs. Fuck you guys. Because frankly, that is not the way to handle that situation. The refs absolutely fucked that entire situation up.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because they got tired of throwing flags. Fuck you guys. That's your job. Get over it.
So yes, it was Luvu encroachment, Allen encroachment.
Yeah. That's what it was. And then they got.
And it was the fourth quarter one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
that's so dumb. It was so dumb. It made me mad.
Yeah, it was just, that is not professional in any fucking way. Not even close.
Not even close to being professional.
And on top of that, it didn't affect the game at all.
What are we doing? Already way down. Who cares?
What are we doing here? They were obviously just, at this point, trying to find ways to deal with this play that's really hard to defend against. Let them do it. It doesn't matter anymore. Let it go. Yeah, the refs were awful on that, I think. And the fact that I'm not hearing other people talk about it also terrifies me, because it makes me think that people are just okay with this. Okay, whatever, I guess.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, if I had been a defensive coordinator or anybody in that game, I'm lodging a complaint with the league.
Oh yeah, that 100%. was just awful, the way they handled that. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Speaking of refs and people that get angry, real quick, who was it? One of the former heads of refs was asked a question about who was the most difficult to deal with on a Monday morning after game day.
Mm.
And he didn't want to say it first, but eventually he came out. I can't remember who the name of the coach was, but he was just one of those guys that was just angry and ready to blow a gasket all the time. And he'd call up to the office because he knew what time the guy got in, and the secretary, whom he was actually friends with and was really nice and sweet to him, and he really liked her, he'd be like, "Is so-and-so in there?" And she'd be like, "No, he's not in yet. I'm expecting him in about, call after lunch. He's got a lot of meetings this morning." And the guy would call back after lunch, and by then he'd have cooled off and be calmer, and so he'd be able to talk.
Still probably pissed off, though.
He was angry, but at least he wasn't screaming and irate. There was a huge difference. I can't remember who it was, but that was funny as hell. I heard about that.
That'd be me, probably, to be honest with you.
All right. But yes, the Eagles do win that game. Saquon runs in 3 times. It's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah, it was.
And the refs embarrassed themselves as well. Should be penalized. Hopefully the head of that ref crew gets hammered and doesn't get to be a head ref anymore.
Yeah, that was...
Because I can't blame it on the whole ref crew. I can only blame it on the one guy.
I know, but just the handling of that situation was awful.
All right. Moving along, Buffalo and Kansas City. This was so close.
There were 2 plays in particular that I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
The first one you already know, obviously. There was that catch that we debated on if it was actually a catch or not. I don't think it was a catch. I don't even think it was an interception, to be honest with you. I think that ball technically hit the ground and moved a little bit. It's hard to tell, but I think, what was that? Was that late? Was that after the first half? I don't even remember.
I don't even remember anymore, but I think I know what you're talking about.
But it was a catch towards the end zone. Guy goes up to catch it. Basically, both defender and receiver come down with a hand on the ball. Ball hits the ground, but it doesn't move a lot. And ultimately, the refs end up ruling that the receiver caught the ball. Rewatching the play, it looks like the defender had definitely more hand on the ball. Definitely seemed like he was the one that technically caught the ball. But I also know that I think there's a rule in the NFL with the whole, like, in a case of a tie, I believe receiver wins, if I remember right. So I think that's what they were going with, and I don't think they were technically going with the idea that the ball had hit the ground at that point.
It was before the half, and it was...
it was before the half, okay.
It was to Worthy.
Yeah, Worthy. And I think ultimately what happened is that when they went to replay, they realized it hit the ground, but it was too late to change it, especially because the ball didn't move a lot when it did hit. It looked like it was pretty secured. So I think at that point the NFL, or the refs anyways, felt that they couldn't overturn the ball because it wasn't enough evidence to say that it wasn't a catch, even though most people would look at it and go, man, was that a catch?
I mean, now we will point out that there was also defensive holding on the play, and so they probably would have gotten a chunk of yards anyway.
Yeah, probably. But it was just one of those things where it looked weird.
It did.
But
very weird.
Not one that I would call necessarily game-changing. Just weird.
Yeah.
The one that I want to call out that I think absolutely was game-changing, and I think you can argue one way or the other if you'd like on that. It was in the fourth quarter. 4 minutes, I believe, left on the clock, or close to 4 minutes, 4:11, somewhere around there. Bills were about midway field, close to midfield. It was 4th and 1, I believe, or 4th and inches.
Yes.
And the Bills decided to go for it. And the NFL ruled that they didn't make it ultimately. However, if you look back and watch that play, from all the angles that they even showed on TV, to me it looks like he definitely crosses the line, to the point where, frankly, 2 of the refs had different spots. Mm-hmm. Even the refs couldn't agree on the spot.
This was actually 13:01 to go in the fourth quarter.
13:01, my apologies.
End of the third, into the fourth.
And that single situation really, like, it not only did they turn over the ball to the Chiefs, which then allowed the Chiefs to not only run more clock, but also get more points.
Got a touchdown out of it.
Yep. I just don't think for a second that wasn't a first down. Every angle I watched, even in the top-down angle where you can track the ball, you can clearly see the ball in his hands, it definitely looks like it crosses that line, or at least touches the line where it should be to gain.
Yes.
I have no idea how, even under review at New York, they did not see that obvious cross. I don't know how. I don't know how they didn't see it. And so that's why I also have to call this out as another one of those situations where Chiefs got a favorable call from the refs. Whether or not that's intentional or not, I don't believe it is, because I'm not one of those guys that's going to go that conspiracy theorist on you. But I will say it's convenient. I will say that it's horribly timed. And I will say that, quite frankly, whoever's at New York needs new eyeballs. And I think they absolutely need to start implementing what they've been talking about for so long, which is more or less motion tracking of the football in comparison to the first down line, so that there's no need for the refs to be eyeing that shit anymore.
Yeah.
Because
you put a chip in the
quite frankly, this shit's annoying.
Come on, we can put chips in fucking hockey pucks. You could put a chip in a football.
Yeah, I don't believe for a second that he did not hit that gain to me in every way that I looked at it. It just feeds into that narrative that the Chiefs get favorable treatment, even if they don't seem like they do. It definitely comes across like they do. And don't get me wrong, I realize that there is a certain amount of it's because they're the best right now, kind of like the Patriots would get that, right? People would talk about how the Patriots were getting favorable treatment. And whenever you're the best and when you're at the top, people are going to say that. I get it. I understand that. However, in both cases, to be blunt with you, both Patriots and Chiefs, you can argue when you go back and look at everything, they do get favorable calls. It is what it is. Whether or not intentionally or not is not for me to decide. But the facts are the facts. Patriots would get favored calls during Tom Brady's era, just like Patrick Mahomes is getting favored calls during the Chiefs era. It is what it is. I don't know what else to say about it. It's bothersome. It's annoying. I don't know if there's a way to really fix it, because obviously the refs are just doing what the best they can, and obviously they're trying to put any bias aside that they may or may not have, let alone personalities, per people they like, people they don't like. You know what happens. These are people. There are certain players that refs have personally talked about not liking, and sometimes maybe that player might not get certain calls just because they don't like, just because the refs don't like them. It is a thing. So it's hard not to see the situations like this and go, man, that feels slightly rigged.
We'll talk about that a little more. I have a potato for that.
Yeah. I will say this: if it was truly rigged, to be fair, if it was truly rigged, do you really believe that Eagles Chiefs would have been the best Super Bowl for them statistically for eyeballs? No, I don't think so, actually. I think maybe Chiefs, but I think Commanders actually would have been a better choice, just because now you get to have the rookie quarterback talk against the three-peat, and then you get that big scandal thing.
Yeah, but
the Lions going in, you get a big storyline for the Lions.
Here's the thing. If fans will tell you they didn't care who won the NFC game. They just wanted to make the Chiefs have the chance at the three-peat, and they're going to rig the Super Bowl so the Chiefs can win a three-peat. That's what they're going to say.
That's what they're going to say. So I can understand that, but I'm just saying the storyline perspective from the NFC side doesn't make sense. That's why I'm saying it doesn't work. If it was truly a rigged thing like wrestling, the storyline for AFC works. The story for the NFC doesn't.
That's because they're not trying to... The thing is, though, that people will say they're not trying to rig the whole thing. They are not. The contest between the Commanders and the Eagles was not rigged. It was 100% legitimate.
I'm going by the people that say it's sports entertainment. The people that say it's sports entertainment.
If it's full-on all sports entertainment, if every game is thus
the storylines don't make
rigged,
sense for that.
Then the storylines would make sense. Now, if you're only rigging certain games, it makes a modicum of sense.
I still will argue that if you are rigging only certain games,
why wouldn't you rig the other side too to get the most? I
was gonna say you want to get the best. You want to get the best.
No, I totally get
for
where
the
you're
Super
coming
Bowl.
from.
That's where I was going to argue with that.
I totally get what you're coming from.
The Lions or Commanders, or even Vikings would have been better competitions for the Chiefs than the Eagles. Having an Eagles versus Chiefs 2.0 is not what I wanted.
No,
and I don't think a lot of people wanted it outside of the fans that are of those teams. Yeah. So
anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, the Chiefs did win 32-29. Allen had a shot at the end of the game, rainbowed the ball. I think it was it Knox? No, it wasn't Knox. I want to say that might have
Wasn't
been
it Hollins?
somebody couldn't come down with it at the very
I
end of
thought
the
it was
game.
Hollins, but I don't remember.
Kincaid.
Oh, was it Kincaid? Okay.
It was Kincaid. Just could not. He had to dive to try to come up with it, and just could not come up with it.
Right. Yeah.
But they pulled a full out blitz on him. He wasn't going to get away. He had to rainbow it and just pray, and that prayer went unanswered.
Yep.
Chiefs run out the clock. Is what it is. There's not much you can do. You know what I mean?
No, not really. I mean, the Bills ultimately did play well. The Chiefs played well. There were some issues with the reffing here and there, but majority the games were played well.
Yes.
Neither team really played super poorly. I mean, I will say the Bills, specifically like Josh Allen, you really want to hold on to that football a little bit more, bud. But outside of that, ultimately it was a good game, to be fair.
Ultimately, it was a pretty good game.
It just sucks that like we had to put an asterisk just because of like refs doing ref things. Like it bothers me to have to do that.
Yeah.
Because most of the game was good until those couple of moments, and I went, God damn it. Refs, why do you gotta ruin a good fucking football game?
Alrighty. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I guess.
Alright. Stinky people. Stinky people shower time. Stinky people. I'll start.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Eckler. Go hit the showers. You averaged 1.9 yards per game, per carry, and you put the ball on the ground, and you lost it. Go hit the showers.
I was gonna say, unfortunately, yeah. The rushing game for the Commanders was
bad.
kind of there.
Bad.
My first one, and this isn't for lack of trying. To be fair, we gotta remember there's only 2 games. There's only so many people to pick from. I am putting Josh Allen in here, only because the fact that he just couldn't hold on to the football and was losing yards. Yeah, he didn't lose. It wasn't a fumble loss, but like,
I get it.
Man, those yard losses do hurt ultimately.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
I get it. I did put a different person for the Bills on here. I put in Keon Coleman. He had 4 targets thrown at him. He only caught 1 of them for like 12 yards.
Yeah, Keon Coleman was never a huge guy for me though, but I can understand it. Number 2, I put down the Commanders' defense. It is what it is. You guys just could not stop Saquon, and if you can't stop Saquon, you're gonna lose. That's basically what happened, and that's what I said was gonna happen. If they couldn't stop Saquon, they were gonna lose, and that's
more or less exactly what happened. Yeah. I do not have a third. I only had 2.
Oh, okay. My last one's the refs because I'm sick and tired of you guys. Go take a shower because you clearly need it.
But you know what? I'll throw the ref crew specifically from the Commanders game.
For the Commanders game? Fair enough.
Alrighty. Inferno?
Sure.
You can start.
Saints, you're in my 8th circle as a whole. Just because, like, what are you doing? You don't even... Who's your quarterback going to be? Are we sticking with Derek Carr or not? How's the rebuild going to look? Because we don't know. That offense and defense is rough. We don't know who your coach is, so we don't know who your coordinators are going to be. It feels like you're going to be last-minuting a lot of this shit before the draft, and I don't know if that's going to look good.
I put Tom Benson for the Saints in the 4th, the owner.
Fair enough.
I don't know what you're doing right now, man. Where's your coach? Where's your coach?
Where's anybody?
You still have your GM. So I'm not like...
Do you?
I believe their GM is still employed.
Because is he doing anything?
Probably not.
I was gonna say, just because he's on your payroll doesn't mean he's doing anything.
Yes, maybe at this point you need to wake him up or wake yourself up. I don't know what's going on, man. Maybe you guys need to stop golfing.
For real. I have the refs on my list at the 10th circle. I am sick and tired. Even like, don't get me wrong, most of the postseason has actually been pretty good for the most part. But man, I am just tired of seeing the refs fuck up so many times in such critical situations too. Like, like the small stuff, not a big deal, but man, the amount of critical times they decide to fuck shit up is just way too often. Which is why I also think people think it's rigged because the timings are just way too convenient sometimes.
Sean McDermott, head coach
Ooh,
Buffalo. You're in the sixth
okay.
circle. And it's because I think your chair's getting warm. People in Buffalo
I
are
mean,
getting a little antsy.
I know they want to get to that Super Bowl, but I think conference championship 2 years and making playoffs consistently is enough. But I can understand where you might say, well, you finally need to get that hump, get over the hump. What's going on? I get it. I
Yeah,
get it. I get it.
that's why I think people are starting to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it. And for my last one, Jerry Jones, 11th circle, dude. At this point, if you want the Cowboys to be successful, sell the fucking team, because that's the only way it's happening.
Jerry Jones, 11th circle. Same reason. I don't know what you're doing anymore. You senile old fuck.
No, you should not own. You shouldn't even own a football team anymore. Honestly,
Honestly, you should
if
own a driver's license.
if if you hadn't been in the NFL for so long at this point, I would be one of the owners that would go, "Can we Dan Snyder him? Can we just ask him to leave and force him to sell, please? Can we do that?" They won't because he's such a long veteran. That's the reason why they won't do that to him. But ultimately, he will end up having to either die or sell the team for that team to ever be successful again.
Game balls?
Sure.
All right, I've only got two.
I technically put down 5, but I don't think they all deserve it. So
I'm only giving out two. Only
okay,
giving
fair
out
enough.
two.
I assume we're gonna have one that's probably the same. So Saquon Barkley.
Saquon.
Yep, Saquon Barkley. My other one on here, as much as I don't want to give it to him, he did play really well. Was Mahomes.
I also gave one to Mac Hollins.
Oh, okay, I can understand that.
For the Bills.
He
played pretty damn good.
I also gave one to Zach Ertz because I think, despite the fact that the rest of that team was kind of hard, he actually had a really good game.
He had a really good game. I will not say that he was bad. I will also put out. I do have one from the Chiefs that I just thought of. His stats aren't spectacular, but he did play a key role in it, and that would be Kareem Hunt.
I was going to say his actual stats for the day did look kind of like dog water, but he did have a couple of big moments that were important.
A couple of big moments and a touchdown, and he ran through some people at key times. Yep. So while his stats looked like dog water, he did lead the team in rushing.
Yes.
And he did.
Actually, was it Mahomes?
No.
Was it behind? Because Mahomes had like 45 or 47 yards or something like that.
Hunt had 64. Mahomes had 43.
Okay. 43, okay. So I was going to say, I know Mahomes was actually not that far off, though. Is what I was
he also did run in for 2 touchdowns. But
yeah, that's why I gave him my nod.
Yeah.
As much as I don't want to, he did actually have a good game.
Worthy had a pretty good game, too.
Worthy was also on my list as somebody who you could potentially give one to.
But I'm going to give it to Hunt just because you haven't heard his name a whole lot, and I honestly feel like he deserves a little bit of recognition because he is helping them get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair.
So, alrighty. Potatoes.
Potatoes. Me or you?
I'll start because I'm going to give you one that you're going to agree with because you've already said it. Maybe the Cowboys will fail until Jerry Jones just goes away.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I at this point, like, the thing is, I remember you asking me this, I think it was midway through.
Yeah, midway through I said
I think it was about midway through. And I was like, I'm not sure about that yet.
Super Bowl while Jerry's alive.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know if I necessarily believe that, and I'm now at the point where I don't know if necessarily alive, but as long as he's owner, absolutely. They will never win a Super Bowl as long as he's owner of that team.
Because I don't think he'll actually pass the team to anybody until he dies.
Probably not, but there's a chance that it does happen. If he gets senile enough where he has to go into a home or something, it could happen. But I think the odds are unlikely. But yeah, no, absolutely. That's a no-brainer in my opinion. That's
Eat that one fully loaded up.
at this point, he has shown that he has been losing his mind because he clearly doesn't know how to run a football organization anymore. All right, for my first one, it's a little spicy, but I don't think it's that bad. I don't think any of these are ultimately that spicy, to be honest with you. But that's
none of
me.
mine are either. Mine are all pretty big.
But maybe, just maybe, the NFL will find a way for the Chiefs to three-peat.
Probably. Which this is going to lead into the next one I'm going to have. I don't even have much to say other than that, but probably. Maybe the NFL has a huge optics problem. Let me explain.
As far as reffing and everything, oh yeah.
Not just that. Let me explain. So for the Chiefs game, they made a big deal out of the ref crew and how like 50 some odd % of the calls don't go in favor of the home team, and this is a guy who's never allowed the Chiefs to win while he's da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, they made a big deal out of this ref crew and put it all over social media, only for the Chiefs to win on some questionable calls.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So maybe the NFL has an optics problem that they don't know how to solve.
I think they do know how to solve it. I think they refuse to.
That also could very well be.
That's just me.
All right, what you got?
But yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. They absolutely do have an optics. And it's not even just reffing. It's like a lot of other shit too in general.
There's a lot of other things with it. Yeah.
That's one of the storylines that they, over the last 3 to 4 years, cannot get away from. And I don't think they will until they decide to finally address the problem that we all know is a problem that they refuse to address. So there you go.
All right.
All right, for my next one, maybe, just maybe the Bills are cursed.
It's possible. I think Peyton Manning needs to visit the Bills Stadium with a prominent Bills fan and do some sort of curse-breaking ceremony like he did with Rich Eisen and the Lions.
That'd be hilarious.
Or was it Rich? Who was it? It was somebody in the Lions.
It wasn't Rich. It was somebody else, because Rich would have been with the Jets.
But they did somebody with the Lions.
Who would have been with the Lions?
I don't remember who they did it with.
Definitely wasn't Eminem.
No, but it was some other big famous.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Detroit. Oh, it was the actor, the guy from the guy from the Newsroom, and Dumb and Dumber. The not Jim Carrey guy.
I see him in my head. I just don't remember
Daniels?
what his name is. Is it Jeff Daniels? Is that right?
I think that's his name.
Again, I can picture face. I'm not sure about name, but
so
I know
maybe
who
they need some sort of major person from Buffalo that Peyton Manning can do a curse-breaking ceremony with.
Maybe they need a curse breaking. Jets definitely need a curse breaking.
Jets need one too. So he needs to take Rich Eisen to Jets Stadium and figure that shit out.
They should absolutely do that.
I would pay to watch it.
The only downside is that might curse break the Giants too. So I mean,
but the Giants though have won Super Bowls in that stadium since, so it might curse the Giants.
Oh, there you go. Curse them. Remove the curse from yourself.
Remove the curse on the Jets.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Curse reversal. All right, my last one. Maybe. Now that they have gotten rid of Trent Baalke, the Jaguars can actually be good.
Historically speaking, the answer would be no. However, I do think they will have improvements without Trent Baalke. I think it's going to take more time than like 1 year, probably.
Oh,
though.
yeah. I think it's going to take a couple of years.
There's going to be a little bit of time to rebuild some of that. Yeah.
We should see some steps forward next season.
But I do think they will be better. We'll see how the new GM works with the coach and everything. So there's still a lot of questions there because we don't even know who the GM is yet. So there's still some questions there, but I do believe that this is at least the right path forward to be more successful.
Yes.
Sure.
Currently, we do know that the AGM is the interim GM.
Yes.
And he is going to be handling alongside the new coach Cohen. It sounds
Yep.
like they're handling the scouting and potential draft board.
Yep. At the moment. Yep. All right, for my last one, I'm doing a slight amend on what I've done in the past because I think what I've said in the past might not happen now, based on what I've heard around the league. So we'll see if this one, maybe this one's might make this one. I think is all you could argue is more of a cop out, to be honest, but I think it's also more accurate, probably more accurate, to be fair. Maybe, just maybe, Matthew Stafford won't play for the Rams next season. So rather than outright saying he's going to retire, I'm now amending it saying that I just think he just won't end up playing for the Rams.
Yeah, no. I think that if he's not playing for the Rams, he's retiring. I don't think he wants to move his family anywhere else. I mean...
Fair. Sure the Jets aren't giving them a little bit of a phone call there?
He's not going to New York. He has no interest in that, I don't think.
Why not?
Because he doesn't want to move his family. And he doesn't want to be away from them for that long.
I mean, as far as we know.
Look, I'm all... At this point, with the veteran... Yeah. Like,
maybe the Browns?
With Aaron Rodgers doing what he did, it's because he's not married, he doesn't have kids, it doesn't matter to him. You know, there's a lot of guys that, you know, either you're young and it doesn't really matter, or you're older and either you don't have kids or your kid's grown and they all understand.
Maybe Seattle?
I think at this point, maybe you could move up to Seattle. That would
I was going to say that's a little closer, at least.
That would be one of the places I would think of. Frisco would be a place I would think of. Still out in the
at least
area
you're saying the same area?
Yeah. Still out in the area there. Maybe Vegas.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. Those would be the ones I'd think of. It'd be West Coast.
Not across country, you just stay on that side of the...
And even then, I don't know how far he'd want to go and how much control does he have over that, and would he rather retire than get traded? Do they really want to trade him? What's the value there? There's a lot of questions there, and I honestly think he either plays for the Rams again or retires. I don't know that there's much in between on that. There might be some area in there, depending on what the trade would be, but I don't think it's very much. Not that the trade wouldn't be much. I just don't think there's much area in there.
Fair enough.
All right. We're not going to predict the Super Bowl now because the Super Bowl isn't for another couple of weeks. So we're going to leave that alone. I am going to do my NHL power rankings, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. At number 10, we have the Ottawa Senators. I think this might be one of the first times I've ever put them on this list. They are currently 26-20-4 with 56 points. In their last 10, they are 7-2-1. They are playing really hot hockey right now. I know they've beaten the Maple Leafs recently. They've done some really good stuff lately, and I think they're one of the hottest teams in hockey. Number 9, moving up one, Columbus. The Columbus Blue Jackets, 24-19-7, 55 points. Last 10, 7-2-1. They're again one of the hottest teams in hockey right now. They're playing incredibly good hockey. I don't know what lit a fire under them, but something did, and they're really, really going to town right now. At number 8, the Vegas Golden Knights, 31-15-4, 66 points. Last 10, 3-6-1. The only reason they're still on this list is because they have 66 points. They're playing like a dog's dinner right now. They look horrible. It's atrocious. They got to pick it up. Number 7, the Toronto Maple Leafs, 30-18-2, 62 points. Last 10, 5-5-0. You're middling. You were doing good, and now you're back to being bleh. At number 6, the Florida Panthers, 29-19-3, 61 points. Last 10, 5-4-1. You're playing just good enough to stay here. You're probably going to make the playoffs again. I don't know if you're going to have a magical run to the cup again. Number 5, the Dallas Stars, 31, 17, and 1, 63 points. Last 10, 6, 4, and 0. Ottinger is getting better again. You guys are finding ways to score. You guys are doing pretty good. Number 4, the Carolina Hurricanes. 30, 16, and 4, 64 points overall. Last 10, 6, 2, and 2. Let's see how you do with Rantanen. I think this... Let's also see if you can find... get the old man there to turn back the clock a little bit and get Taylor Hall to see if he can't find that number 1 pick in him again. Number 3, the Edmonton Oilers, 32, 15, and 3. 67 points, last 10, 7, 3, and 0. It's Edmonton, and it's Connor McDavid.
Of course.
I don't need to say anything beyond that. Number 2, the Winnipeg Jets, 34, 14, and 3, 71 points. Last 10, 7, 2, and 1. Look, the Jets have mostly been a wagon this season, but they've had their down periods. They're still probably one of the odds-on favorites to go all the way and win the Cup. And the other odds-on favorite would probably be this guy, number 1, the Washington Capitals, 33, 11, and 5, 71 points. Last 10, 7, 1, and 2. Ovechkin is now officially 20 goals away from breaking Gretzky's record. Which, that's fucking amazing. All right? This is also coming from a dude that broke his leg this season and then came back and is still doing this. Come on. That's amazing right now. Notable absences that you may notice. The Devils, the Wild, and the Avalanche. None of them are playing well enough to be on this list right now. And with Minnesota losing Kaprizov, I'm not sure that they're going to make it back on this list anytime in the near future. Sadly.
Possible.
Just hope we get Brodin and Mojo back soon. Also, I do want to shout out one thing since we're back in hockey. And I want to shout out, fuck Nikita Kucherov. Why Nikita Kucherov specifically? Well, the other night, the Lightning were playing the Detroit Red Wings. In the late third period, I almost said fourth quarter. In the late third period, they were losing 1-0. They had pulled their goalie and were attempting to get the tying goal. Extra skater on the ice. Someone from Detroit broke away and had a shot at the empty net goal. And Nikita Kucherov, instead of trying to play hockey, filled a diaper, literally his own, took his stick and absolutely intentionally tripped the holy living hell out of the guy on the breakaway. Sending him, and he hit the side of his skate. He didn't trip him face first or anything. He hit the side of his skate, causing him to tumble over. He went into the net hard. Kucherov does get called for tripping. This guy winds up getting helped off the ice and up the tunnel. It was blatant, pure attempt to injure. And the league has done absolutely nothing about it. So apparently, they do not care about player safety. But we've said that before. I just wanted to call it out. I wanted to let everybody know that as much as the Kachucks are very hated because they are dirty, there are some players that don't get called out enough, and Kucherov is one of them. He's dirty, dirty, dirty. Fuck him.
Shower, you dirty little boy.
He needs more than a shower. That boy needs a deep clean.
Throw him in an ice bath.
I don't want to throw him in an ice bath. I want to shoot him with a power washer.
Well, that's called murder. We can't do that.
I didn't say it had to be a particularly powerful one. It just has to hurt.
That's still probably not a good idea.
I didn't say it was a good idea. I said that's what I wanted to do.
Especially the eyes. At least give him goggles so his eyes will be okay.
Okay, I can do that. We'll give him some goggles and maybe a little face plate to keep the face intact. Everything else,
you gotta keep the... I don't know, crotch you gotta be careful of too. Let's be fair.
No, fuck that. He doesn't need to procreate.
He probably already has, to be fair.
Probably. I hope not.
Probably has, though.
Anyway,
Let's be honest.
That's what we've got done here. Next week, we will be doing the full-on awards show. It'll be our awards, which are a little different than the NFL awards. We do have a separation into both. So we have our MVP, obviously, but then we also have AFC and NFC Players of the Year for both offense and defense. We do the same for the rookies. And we have some other fun awards, like the Peyton Hillis Award, the Ryan Leaf Award. Yep. All right, guys. In the meantime, we're going to tell all of you that we believe in you. I'm going to college. If I can go to college and pass, you can do anything you put your mind to.
You haven't passed yet, but you'll get there.
I will. I believe in me, and I believe in you. In the meantime, we'll see you back here next week. If you like what we do, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. Let us know that you're enjoying the content. And we'll see you all next week. Stay bearded. Peace out. We're trying to sing this and it sucks.
It's awful.